Welcome to the documentary from the BBC World Service.
Estás escuchando The Fifth Floor.
The Fifth Floor'u dinliyorsunuz. Bizimle kalın.
तुम्ही ऐकताय The Fifth Floor Faranak Amidi सोबत.
This is The Fifth Floor, at the heart of global storytelling with BBC journalists from all around the world. I'm your host, Faranak Amidi. Shea butter. It's a natural ingredient used in skin products, and it works as a moisturizer or a lotion. It's basically a kind of fat that comes from the nuts of Shea trees, which grow in several countries in Africa. In Uganda, the shea butter industry plays an important role for women in rural areas who collect and process the shea tree nuts. But human activities and climate change are now threatening these trees. Njoroge Muigai from BBC Africa has traveled to Uganda to report on this story.
The shea tree is a very interesting tree that grows in the savanna woodlands of Africa, and it grows in what is called the shea belt that stretches from West Africa to East Africa. The East African variety, called the Nilotica, its nuts produce a lot more of the fat that is produced from the nuts, and it's more smoother. Whereas the West African variety, the shea butter that it produces is a bit more harder. It has less oil content. The tree takes around 10 to 15 years to mature once it has been planted, and then it can produce the nuts for around 20 to 30 years. In good conditions, on average, one tree might produce around 50 kilograms of fruit, and it does this every year in a season. In northwestern Uganda, the women usually go out and collect the nuts that have fallen from the tree once they are mature. These nuts are then dried, ground into a fine powder, then mixed with water and boiled up to a certain point where the oil separates from the water. After the boiling has occurred, it's sieved, and then you remain with a sort of like brown reddish substance, and then the oil floating on top, and then the oil is sieved and then put in containers. And that's the traditional way of making the shea butter. If you're to buy the shea butter off the shelf as a skin moisturizer or used in a cosmetic product, it is very nice and soft. The raw shea butter, it has a woody smell because most of the time it is boiled over an open fire. It's also used in pharmaceutical products. It's a butter fat, so it's also used in cooking and also in confectionery. The tree is really being cut down at an alarming rate in some of the last surviving areas where it's found in East Africa, one of these areas being northern Uganda, in an area called Koboko. What is happening is that due to the effects of climate change, farmers in those areas are experiencing more drought seasons and less harvests from their crops, and are therefore turning to cutting down the shea nut tree to produce charcoal from it, whereby they sell the charcoal quickly. It's an easy way to earn quick cash. The cutting down of the trees is also affecting the climatic conditions in the area, prolonging this drought period, and thereby, the fruits of the shea tree are not maturing as they used to do. Now they are flowering later and then producing even less nuts. The charcoal business is quite lucrative, and the demand for this charcoal is mostly from the major cities. The charcoal from the shea nut tree is said to last longer, so you need very little of it to use as a source of fuel. And one of the statistics we saw is since 1991, Uganda has been losing close to 100,000 hectares of forest cover. That has been quite an alarming rate of, forest destruction. And now since the shea nut tree is so valuable, the charcoal is so valuable, it is one of the trees that has been really cut down for production of this charcoal. The area generally is a very hot area with temperatures ranging from between 30 to 38 degrees Celsius. But now the temperatures are even hitting the highs of over 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. And this is affecting even the fruiting of the tree. This we were told by one of the experts we talked to, and the other person we spoke to on this story is called Mustafa Gerima, who is a former teacher turned conservation activist and has been doing campaigns all over Uganda and East Africa to help preserve this tree.
Miti wa Shea imeharibiwa kwa kiasi kikubwa mno. Miaka 20 iliyopita.
As Mustafa, well put it, the shea butter has this golden look, and it is known as the women's gold because it is the women, who go source the nuts and produce the shea butter from it. And this livelihood of making the shea butter supports millions of women across Africa. And in this particular case, when we went to Koboko in northwestern Uganda, we met up with a lady called Mariam Chandiru, who's been making shea butter for over 20 years. She told us she was taught by her mom, and it's like something that has been passed down in their family. She described, that right now the business is not doing so well. She said that she used to sell up to 5 jerrycans of shea oil a week, and right now she can only fill 2 jerrycans at most. And one 500 milliliter bottle, she sells it for $2.50.
Siku ile mimi nauza mafuta hii jerikani 6, jerikani 5, sasa narudisha jerikani 2.
So not having this income is really affecting her daily life because she says now she doesn't have enough money to support her family. She said she's a mother of 6 and now getting stuff like food stuff, getting enough money to pay for their school fees, it's becoming a struggle. She told us that she sells one 500 milliliter bottle of shea nut oil for around $2.50, whereas we were told like a bag of charcoal goes for around 50,000 Ugandan shillings, which is roughly $13-14. And so when faced with such challenges, women in rural areas, might opt to now go into the charcoal business. You get the money more quickly to fend for your needs. Mustafa also alluded to the fact that due to the high poverty levels in those areas, people see charcoal selling as a better alternative to even making the shea butter, which is a bit more labor intensive and will take time because you have to work with the seasons when the nuts are produced by the tree. I did discover that there's some efforts being put in place to address this issue. Back in 2023, there was a presidential order that decreed that cutting down of the shea nut tree for charcoal is illegal and should be stopped. Although implementing that order has been a challenge, in some districts in Uganda, they have bylaws that circumvent that, whereby someone can cut the tree in another area and then come and burn it for charcoal in that district, and it won't be deemed as illegal. In that region of Koboko in northwestern Uganda, it actually borders the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. And so, people smuggle the trees out of Uganda into those countries, burn the charcoal, and then when it's brought through the border, they claim it's from those countries. Mustafa Gerima, nicknamed Bwana Shea or Mr. Shea by the local community, has been doing a lot of advocacy to save the shea nut tree. He said, this is not one man's fight. Everyone needs to make it a concerted effort from the international, national, and local community to ensure that this tree is saved and preserved for future generations. He said that his mission is not just to save the tree, but to preserve a way of life, because in that region, the shea nut tree was revered back in traditional times, and also its oil and butter was used in traditional ceremonies like anointing of kings and other religious ceremonies. He's saying that if things are not done to preserve the tree, a lot will be lost. Not just the tree, but also a way of life will be lost.
Njoroge Muigai from BBC Africa.
I'm Faranak Amidi. The Fifth Floor team this week was
Alicia Gioia
and
Hannah Dean.
Thanks for listening. You've been listening to The Documentary from the BBC World Service.